Well, I'll be up, I'm sure.
No, we'll make it work. Not a problem.
All right.
All right, well, I have 6 o'clock, so we'll call the Tuesday, April 21, 2020 Urbandale City Council meeting to order, and I'll ask Nicole to take the roll call, please.
Blake,
Here.
Carberry Montgomery,
Here.
Obrecht,
Here.
Pogge,
Here.
Russell.
Here.
All right, thank you. Again, I'll just read a few comments since we are participating again by WebEx. So before we get started, all lines will be initially muted, and as always, public comments will be taken during the citizens forum and any public hearing portions of the meeting. For those joining by computer, if you can use the chat function to let the city clerk know that you'd like to speak on an item, I would appreciate that. You could just enter your name and address and note the agenda item that you'd like to speak about, and then mute your microphone, and then at the appropriate time, you'll be recognized by me for your opportunity to speak on the selected item. And then you can unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. If you're joining by phone and you're not able to use the chat feature, please wait until the clerk says there are no more registered public comments. And then at that time, we'll ask if there are any comments from anyone joining solely by the phone. And then you can unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record and then speak. So again, each vote tonight will be done by roll call, and the council members are asked to please state your last name before making a motion or a second, so we can record that properly. And again, thank you for your patience, and we're getting better at this every time, so we'll make it even better. So thanks again, everyone. So with that, we need to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic, to stand
one nation,
under God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is approve the agenda. We have motion.
I would so move to approve the agenda.
Second, Carberry Montgomery.
Arbor Montgomery. Discussion, roll call.
Russell,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Blake,
yes.
Obrecht, Pogge.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we have our 2020 Arbor Day proclamation, and you can all read along with me tonight. I'm going to read it. Normally we would be planting some trees this time of year and celebrating Earth Day and Arbor Day, but we're going to do it virtually this year, but at least we have the proclamation. So whereas the City Council approved ordinance number 2002-15 on August 20, 2002, which created the Urban Tree Board as an advisory board to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And whereas trees conserve soil and water, they clean the air and provide comfort in their beauty, color, and shade, and make Urbandale a more pleasant place to live and work. And through the dedicated efforts of the Tree Board, the City of Urbandale is recognized as a Tree City USA community. And whereas through the dedicated effort of American Energy Company's annual Trees Please grant, and in recognition of National Arbor Day, the city annually plants trees on public property to ensure a greener, healthier tomorrow. And whereas in recognition of the 2020 Arbor Day, the Urbandale Tree Board will sponsor the following tree planting: 16 trees planted at Waterford Park in Urbandale. Now, therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, on behalf of the Urbandale City Council, the Urbandale Tree Board, and the entire community, do hereby support Urbandale's 2020 Arbor Day tree planting at Waterford Park, located at 156th Street and Waterford Road in Urbandale. Thank you for that. Thank you to Mid-American Energy for their continued support, and thanks to our tree board for everything they've done on that as well. All right, well, moving on to item 4 is our citizens forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda. Nicole, do we have anybody registered at this point?
I do not, and I have not received any chats yet.
Okay. And so we don't have anybody that's indicated online. Is there anybody on the phone that would like to address the council this time? If so, please unmute your phone and please give your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Item 5 is the adoption of the minutes, first from the April 7, 2020 meeting.
Hoagie moves approval.
Second, Carberry Montgomery.
Motion by Pogge, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Blake,
Matt?
Blake,
I was muted. Yes.
Russell,
Dave? Can you unmute?
We were auto muted, so I think yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
All right. And then from the April 14 lunch line.
Hoagie move approval.
Second, Blake.
Motion by Pogge, second by Blake. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes, and also yes on the last one.
Russell,
Yes.
Sorry about that, Adam. We missed you on that one. Okay. All right. Item 6 is the consent agenda. There are 8 items for approval.
Hoagie move approval.
Russell second.
Motion by Pogge, second by Russell. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Pogge, Russell,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, thank you. That passes. Item 7 is public hearing. Item 7.1 is the public hearing that has been continued for the Waterford Landing Amendment to the Comprehensive Plan and Planned Unit Development Master Plan at 167th Street and Waterford Road. And for this, I'm going to turn it over to our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve?
All right, anybody hear me okay?
Do you want to share your screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this was a public hearing that Hubble had scheduled some time ago. The short synopsis of this is they have met with the neighbors a couple of times on the proposed project, and they're really frankly at an impasse about what Hubble would like to do and what the neighbors would like to see. And so at this point, they have withdrawn the project and are kind of going back to the drawing board to figure out how they might be able to move this forward. I assured Joe Petrozinski with Hubble, talked to him one day last week and assured him that staff would be more than happy to sit down with them and assist in any way that we could moving forward. But what they're proposing to do at this time just isn't going to work with the neighbors, so they have withdrawn it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Steve, are they going to refigure it or redraw it?
I'm sorry, Dave, I had my volume down real low. Could you repeat the question?
Does that mean they're not going to go forward with the project, or they're just going to redo it?
At this point, that's really yet to be determined. I think they're just trying to figure out if they're going to redo it, what that looks like.
So this one is withdrawn though, so.
That is correct. What their proposed, the original proposal had included, they have withdrawn it.
I've met
Brenda?
with Hubble quite a few times on this and met with the neighbors and been in communications with them. And made my opinion pretty clear to Hubble on this, that I think that they, because of the unique nature of the project in terms of them having ownership kind of on both sides of the issue, that they really need to work with the neighbors to get them on board in order for to get my support of the project. So I'm happy to see that they're pulling it, because I think the product that they're offering is a good one. It's just not in the most appropriate place for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Bridget. Any other comments? Again, if I could just ask people, if you're not speaking as well, please mute your mics too. One thing is we get that, and then also there's some feedback that happens if you're not using headphones too. I think that we get from that. So if you're not speaking, if I could just please ask you to mute your microphone, I'd appreciate it. So with that, are there any other comments from the council? All right, we will move on then. Item 8, planning and zoning items. First is item 8.1, the Lillis Lofts Merle Hay Apartments site plan at 6313 Douglas Avenue. Steve?
Okay, thank you. I am going to see if we can share my screen here. Okay. So hang on, I gotta get to the right one. Okay. This is the site plan for the affordable housing project that we all know about at this point. It's been delayed a little bit. They very much wanted to bring the site plan and the plat together at the same council meeting. This was approved at P&Z back, I believe it was March 2nd when this was approved, but this is the site plan for the apartment project. This is turn, so north is going to be to your left of the screen here. You've got Douglas down here at the bottom. This is the ring road that comes in between the existing, to the east of the IHOP restaurant. So you come in, this is the existing ring road. They're going to have to reconfigure that just a little bit. And then this would be the parking area for the apartments. It's got a turnaround down here for fire trucks, garbage trucks to be able to turn around. And then this darker rectangle is the apartment building itself, 3 stories and 43 units. Some of the required parking spaces are on the actual property. And then the other parking spaces, they do have an agreement with the mall for those other spaces to be located across the ring road. And again, this is the new configuration of the ring road. You can kind of see a little dashed outline here where the old road used to swing through, had a bigger curve in it. But they needed to straighten out this little portion of it to be able to get the apartment building in. So that is it in a nutshell. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval subject to the items noted, and would be happy to answer your questions.
Steve, you recall I sent an email today trying to get some clarification on that western boundary concerning the fence. One of my considerations when I'm going way back to my conversation with BJ Conley well over a year ago was the creation of more green space for the children that will ultimately be living in this 43 unit complex. Estimates are anywhere between 20 and 25 children will be living in this complex. As part of that, they increased the green space to the north, allowing more open space for the kids to play. As part and parcel of that discussion, there was some concern about what type of a fence, barrier, or wall would extend from the north end of the property south toward Douglas. I confirmed with Tom Gaiman this afternoon, who was in that same meeting, and we received assurances that there would be a continuation of, if not the wall itself, some sort of a fence, some sort of a barrier to keep those children, if they're playing in the north green space, from getting out on that western boundary. It was our understanding that that fence was going to proceed south along the western portion of the project. And somewhere, just north of Douglas is where it would stop. I come to find out from reading your email today that there's no requirement or discussion concerning some type of a fence to fence in those kids sitting in there and playing in that green space. And I have some concern about that.
Right, with Bishop, I think you're on the line. Do you have any insight you can share with conversations you may have had with the developers about any kind of a fence along that western property line?
Sure. This is Brad Keel with Bishop Engineering. Sam Rogers, I believe, is also on the call from the developer. I'll go ahead and add my 2 cents, but there is a dedicated play area to the south of the building near that turnaround that TWG has, for each one of these projects, has provided a play area specifically for the kids. And that will be enclosed by a fence with a gate. There's a sidewalk to it, and so that's going to have some play equipment. It's not a large green space area. As you did note, there is a large green space area to the north that we're trying to preserve some green space, but that's not going to be the dedicated area for kids. That's not to say that there may be some, people up in that area, but we haven't had any discussions of adding any fence along the west perimeter of this project.
Yeah, so this is Sam Rogers. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Sam, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sam Rogers with TWG Development. That must have been lost in translation between BJ and myself, but that's something that we can definitely add into the project, as well as a fence along the western side.
Okay.
So
Do you see any problems with adding a fence there then?
It looked like you were trying to, Russell, you were trying to talk, but you were muted.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't, that would be acceptable if there's some sort of a fence or some sort of a barrier along that western portion of the project, so that there's a separation between that and those apartment complexes to the west of the project. And if you come south along that western border down to probably the playground area, yeah, that would be acceptable to me.
So I guess my question, Dave, is on that northern portion, you're wanting to separate this apartments from the other apartments. Doesn't that divide up the green space and provide actually less play area then?
Well, all the green spaces on this property, on this project, I don't think there's any green space at all to the apartments to the east.
There is.
No, and that's all concrete.
There's a parking area, but there is also a little bit of green space in this area immediately east of the existing buildings.
Okay.
As far as putting the fence in, no, I don't see a problem with putting a fence on the property line. However, I will say that there is an existing water line that runs north and south adjacent to the western property line. So we'd want to check with them and just make sure that they wouldn't have any issues with that. But assuming that they don't have any issues, then I wouldn't see a problem doing it, no.
Okay. And that works for me if there's some sort of a fence there along that western boundary, which is what we discussed with BJ Conley way back when. And other than that, I like the project. I think that they've gone back to the drawing board 2 or 3 times. And I think we've got a better project today than we initially had years ago. And I welcome the project and look forward to breaking ground and moving forward, coming up with 43 units of livable housing.
So is that a motion to approve the site plan? Are you moving that, Dave?
Yeah, I would make the motion. I would move then to approve that site plan with the understanding that some type of a fence or barriers along that western boundary is going to occur.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Arbor Montgomery, second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I guess, Dave, fence idea is what I'm struggling with it now. Because there is some green space over there, and anytime you limit, you're dividing up the green space of the apartments from apartments. And if kids want to be out and play on green space, let them be out on green space and play. Down by Papa John's, that area, I understand kind of a fence, but up by the apartments, I don't.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Russell,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery, Carberry Montgomery,
You're muted. Did we lose her?
There we go.
Muted myself. Yes.
Thank you.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
oh, sorry, Pogge.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Yes, from Blake as well.
Oh, sorry, Matt. All right, thank you. That passes. Item 8.2 is the Merle Hay Aurora Place Plat 2 final plat at 6313.
Okay, this item, going to share my screen again here. Whoops, I'm sorry. Well, I'll just show you this. My bad. I should have shown you this. This was the elevation for the apartments, and this is still the same project related item that we're talking about. So these are the new elevations of what that will look like. Apologize for not showing you that during the last item. And so now we get to this next item. This is simply the final plat to create the parcel on which the apartments are built. You can see on the right side drawing, this is the new parcel that is being created. Has the 170 feet of frontage down here along Douglas. It is called Lot 1 on this plat. Has an area of 1.69 acres. And then there are two remnant outlots. There's an outlot here and an outlot up here, which are the remnant pieces, and would be going back to the internal access driveway for the mall. So the final plat that will create the lot, Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval and would be happy to answer questions on this.
All right, thank you, Steve. Are there any questions for Steve on this item? Do we have a motion?
I'll
Move
move approval
approval.
of Resolution 107-2020, Carberry Montgomery.
Second by Pogge.
Okay, motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Pogge. Discussion, roll call.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Pogge,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, that passes. And again, just a reminder, folks, I know it's kind of difficult, especially for the council members, since we're gonna have to hear you to vote, but if you could just mute your mic when you're not talking, because we're getting at least I can get some feedback on my end, especially when Steve's presenting. So if you can mute your mic when you're not voting or talking about an item, and then unmute. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but it helps keep the flow a little bit better. So thanks on that. Item 8.3 is the Iowa Bankers Association site plan at 8901 Northpark Drive. Steve.
Okay, this item is a great project, a new project out on the north side of Northpark Drive. It's really the last vacant lot just east of 86 there. What's proposed is a two-story office building, which is the darker rectangle here in the middle, total of about 60,000 square feet with 30,000 square feet on each level. And then the lighter gray areas are the access and parking areas. You can see that there's a right in, right out access here to the east of the parcel. And then there is a full movement access on the west end of the parcel with parking spaces on both sides of the building, the majority of the parking in the rear of the building. Total of 300 parking spaces are required, and they're showing 306. So they do meet that requirement. This is all one lot, one larger lot, and what they're proposing to do is to build this on the eastern portion of that parcel on just over 6 acres, and then what's left would be the remnant 6.3 acres that they would own and control, and would be up to them in the future should they ever want to develop that for themselves or sell that to somebody else. The one issue that came up at P&Z with this particular issue is the architectural requirement. These are the elevations that I've got up on the screen. This is what you would see from Northpark Drive, and then this is the north side of the building. So the north and the south sides are predominantly brick, which is compliant with the PUD master plan. The two short sides of the building, the east and the west sides, don't have brick. However, as you probably saw in the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes, this is a PUD that does allow Commission and Council to approve other materials should you deem that they are appropriate for the building and represent a material that's going to be durable and of high quality. And certainly precast concrete is going to meet those requirements. In staff's opinion, we've had another of other buildings, including probably the most recent one is the Deere ISG building just up the street, which is all precast concrete panels as well up there. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of the site plan, and then also recommended approval of the building materials as presented, and staff certainly has no objection with that either. Would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions from the council for Steve on this?
Steve, could you run through kind of there was some of it in the note, but the stormwater management of this? I know that the residents south of there have been hit with a little bit increased flooding. Some of it thanks from the development on the north side. Could you just explain, there's a lot of concrete being put down, what they're doing to mitigate that?
Yep. There is, let me see if I can find, here we go. So if you look at this grading plan, which is what I've got up on the sheet now, there are actually 2 detention basins that are being used to store the stormwater per the city's guidelines. There's a basin up here in the front of the building along Northpark Drive, and then there's another basin back in the back that will be able to accommodate the stormwater. So as typical in a site plan process, they have submitted their stormwater calculations and all the associated information to our engineering department. Engineering has reviewed that and has approved what they've submitted, subject to the conditions that are in the staff report. So that's what I would offer. I know there's probably somebody with Bishop on the line that might want to address that as well.
This is Dan with Bishop, 3501 104th Street, Urbandale. Yeah, it's going to be those 2 detention basins, like he said there, which will then flow into a regional basin that you can kind of see on the western half. So it'll kind of be a staged flow that'll really limit the release over a period of time. So you shouldn't have the high flows that you see today.
Okay. And then those parking lots, I'm assuming, flow into those retention basins and then flow over. Is that how that would happen, I'm guessing?
Correct. All water on the site will flow through a detention basin before it leaves the site.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions from council? Now, is there a motion?
Motion to approve council letter 6317.
Second by Obrecht.
Motion by Blake, second by Obrecht. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Pogge,
Yes.
Russell, Russell,
Dave, can you unmute to vote? You there? Dave's unmuted, but I don't hear him.
Is he frozen?
Yes.
Oh.
There we go. All right.
Excellent, thank you.
That passes. Thank you. Item 8.4 is the Charleston Court Plat 3 preliminary plat and final plat at 7501 and 7555 Hickman Road. Steve.
Okay, this is both a preliminary and a final plat for property down on Hickman between 73rd and Canterbury. This is the former K-Mart property. As you may know, Signature Real Estate owns that property and is going through the process now, if you've driven by there recently, to improve the facade of the former K-Mart building. So that's looking much more up to date and more modern, and I think that will greatly enhance this property. Being platted is 5 different lots. Lot 1 is the largest lot. This is where the former Kmart building was located on. It would be 7.63 acres. Lot 2 in the southwest corner is the former Amco building, which is now being reconstructed. They're doing a lot of interior work at this point. I don't think they've started a whole lot on the outside, but that's being repurposed into a primary healthcare business. And then 3 additional lots across the frontage of Hickman Road, Lot 3, Lot 4, and Lot 5. And those lots range in size from 1.26 acres to 1.94 acres. So would put the former Kmart building on one lot back behind, the former Anco on another lot, and then there would be these 3 vacant lots across the frontage for future development in that particular area. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval subject to items noted and would be happy to answer questions on this one.
Thank you, Dave. Or thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on this? If not, we have 2 items for approval. One is the preliminary plat, and then one is the final plat. So we need 2 different motions on this one.
Obrecht move approval of Charleston Court Plat 3 preliminary.
Second by Poggi.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Poggi. Discussion. Roll call.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Poggi,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Russell, Russell,
Dave. Dave.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Move approval of resolution 106-2020 Obrecht.
Second by Poggi.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Poggi. Discussion. Roll call.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Poggi,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, thanks. That passes. Item 8.5 is the Emmaus House Building Addition Site Plan at 3315.
Okay, this is the site plan for 3315 70th Street, which many of you know as the former City Hall building. Okay, make sure we could hear me. Okay, so here is the site plan on the screen. What is proposed is to add a small addition onto the east side of the building. The existing building has just over 4,000 square feet. What's proposed is a 2-story addition here on the east side of the building of about 1,800 square feet. So it would bring the total of the building to 5,880 square feet. The addition is going to provide on the lower level, I do have a floor plan that I can show you and some elevations. This is the new elevation. This would be on the east side of the building. So this would be the new part that you would see. They're still trying to figure out exactly what colors are going to look like. So it isn't necessarily going to look like this. The main thing we were looking at though is, does it meet the requirements of the PUD to be a predominantly brick building? And so all of this lower level And then in addition, this vertical element here are all brick. And so that does meet the requirements of a predominantly brick building. As far as the floor plan, this is the lower level. This is the addition here at the top of the sheet. So you can see that it would provide them the 3 bedrooms for occasional overnight stays and retreats for clients that they work with that would like to be able to have that opportunity for the spiritual direction program that they offer. And then on the upper level, you can see here it provides some additional office space, an additional meeting room, and then a couple of other restrooms up there as well. So this is the site they've been looking for quite some time, wanted to be in Urbandale, and this is the site that they have found that has finally met the requirements of what they would like to do and be able to operate with what they do. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval, and we'd be happy to answer questions on this one.
All right, thank you, Steve. Questions on this?
So are they tearing down that wall to add it on, or are they just adding all these built up rooms on the side of that wall?
Yeah, Matt, it's going to be some combination of that. They're essentially just adding on. They're going to go through what is required with the building code and, adapt the holes. Let me go back to the floor plan here. So you can see, right now this is a solid wall right here. So they are going to have to be modifying that wall and go through the process to make sure that it meets building code. But this is where the old wall would exist today, and there will be openings now on both levels of what they're proposing to do.
And then can we put in somewhere that the 4th of July parade can still use their parking lot for staging purposes? That's a joke, but yeah. Don't need to put that in there.
Really a joke.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll probably be used.
So nobody can laugh. That's why.
All right. Any further discussion on this? If not, is there a motion?
Okay, I move approval of Council Letter 6319.
Obrecht, second.
By Carberry Montgomery.
Motion by Pogge, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery, Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That passes. Item 8.6 is the Walnut Creek Regional Park Large Shelter Site Plan, 4100 Walnut Creek Regional Park Access Road. Steve.
Okay, this is the last item I have for you tonight with Planning and Zoning Commission items. This is probably the best sheet to show you what's going on here. This is a site plan for 2 phases of a site plan. This thing's been around since about 2014 when it was first appeared in the CIP to be constructed. At that time, there was a meeting with the neighbors at that time that all lived along where the Park Road was constructed. So this is the Park Road here. Existing single-family residences along the Park Road, their rear lots. This is the existing Bob Layton Trail. So between the existing Park Road and the now existing Bob Layton Trail is the area for the parking and the shelter. When this was originally put out to bid, it was a particular year where all of the prices came back way too high. And so this was kind of put on the back burner for a little bit. It's now back in the CIP, in the current CIP, which was just approved as a phased project in this year, 2020, to do a parking lot with at least 50 cars with an alternate to maybe do up to 100 cars. It would have access in 2 locations off of the existing Park Road. And then in 2021 is the construction of the open air shelter. It would be open, would have restrooms, and would have the capacity to have about 100 people there. But this is the first phase for the parking. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer questions.
All right, thanks, Steve. Any questions from the council for Steve on this item?
This is Obrecht. Move approval of Council Letter 6320.
Okay, before, Adam, if I could ask, maybe before you do make that motion, I just wanted to note for the council, Nicole did receive an email from a resident just before the meeting on this, and I'm going to ask if they're on, I'm going to ask them to speak just directly on this. Is there a Steve and Vicky Offerman online here tonight? I don't see a name on the computer, but is there anyone on the phone? Mr. and Mrs. Offerman? I'm just going to read you their email because I think they wanted this communicated to the council. So this is Steve and Vicky Offerman at 4028 147th Street. Steve, can you just show where they would be in relation? Is there a way you can show where their house would be in relation to this?
Mayor, I am not exactly sure where they would be. It would be along this block somewhere, but I'm not exactly sure how far south of Aurora they would be located.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, they live just south of that drainage area, so it'd be just to the east of where the parking lot is.
Okay, thanks, Jan.
Open lot between it would be between 4208 and the other lot of 4102.
Okay, thanks, Jan.
You're welcome.
So I will just read this verbatim. This is what Nicole received. This is in regards to the open air park behind 147th and the parking lot proposed. We moved in here October 2018. Our backyard faces the open area that you want to build upon. Before we ever even bought the house, we inquired at the city and were told that nothing would ever be able to be built behind us. We were assured that it was a wetland by two different people. We are very disappointed and upset to hear of this plan. We enjoy sitting out and watching the birds, deer, and listening to the toads croaking. We don't see another need for an open air shelter since there is one 2 blocks away that nobody even uses. When this was brought to her attention a few months ago, I was talking to a neighbor and her little 10-year-old girl was listening. Her eyes got full of tears and she said, "Where will all the deer go? Haven't we run off enough wildlife?" I believe this plan is not a good one. Basically, we will have a street in front of us and a street in back of us full of traffic. I've also talked to several neighbors that live on other streets and they don't feel the need for it as well. Some of them have views to the woods by the creek as well from their higher up elevations. Please reconsider this as a waste of taxpayer money. Sincerely, Steve and Vicky Offerman, 4028 147th Street. So that is for the record. With that, then Adam, I'll recognize you if you do want to make a motion on this at this point.
Yeah, so make a motion to approve Council Letter 6320.
Okay, motion by Obrecht. Is there a second?
Blake, second.
Blake, discussion, roll call.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Hoagie,
Yes.
Russell, I
Yeah.
saw the yes. I didn't hear you. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much.
That passes. Thank you. All right, that moves us to item 9, the regular agenda items, which is first of all, item 9.1, the 2020 A and B general obligation bond sale. And to introduce this is our finance director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
Mayor, members of the council, can you hear me? Okay, so tonight, this is just the finish up items for our 2020 bond sale. I don't have a formal presentation. These are all procedural items. Just to wrap up the final pieces, we approve a tax exemption certificate that says these bonds are going to be used for tax exempt purposes, a continuing disclosure certificate for each of them that just promises that we update the investor public through the Emma website like all bond sellers do with our financial statements and such. We are approving the paying agent and bond registrar for UMB, which is, if you remember last year, they purchased the Bankers Trust business that does this portion for municipal bonds. So 4 administrative items tonight to approve for the 2 sets of bonds. Happy to answer any questions that you have on that.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki?
This is Pogie. I'd move approval of resolution 109-2020.
Obrecht seconds.
Motion by Pogge, second by Obrecht. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
thank you. Russell,
Yes.
excellent.
And I would move approval of resolution 110-2020.
Second by Obrecht.
Motion by Pogge, second by Obrecht. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
And Pogge would move approval of resolution 111-2020.
Obrecht seconds.
Motion by Pogge, second by Obrecht. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
Then Pogge moves approval of resolution 112-2020.
Second by Obrecht.
Motion by Pogge, second by Obrecht. Discussion, roll call.
Pogge,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Those 4 items pass. Item 9.2 is the approval of the floor mat and janitorial amenity services contract for the city facilities. And Jan, answer any questions if there are any on this? Is there a motion?
I would move to Russell to approve resolution 115-2020.
116.
Yeah, my eyesight. Yes, 116.
Motion by
I'll
Russell.
second Carberry Montgomery.
Second by Carmen Montgomery. Discussion, roll call.
Russell,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Pogge,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, thank you. That passes. Item 9.3 is the settlement agreement and the release of the claim. I'll turn it over to John Conyer to introduce this item. John.
Good evening. This settlement is between the city and a former police sergeant. The sergeant filed an Iowa civil rights discrimination complaint against the city in 2018. The Iowa Civil Rights Commission investigated those allegations and closed the case in 2019. The former sergeant then filed a petition in Polk County District Court and filed an additional Iowa civil rights complaint in 2020. The settlement does not construe admission of wrongdoing or a violation of the sergeant's rights by the city of Urbandale. All of us agree that the settlement is in the best interest to settle this out of court. It had an October 2020 date before COVID-19 to go to trial. The agreed upon settlement amount is $1.195 million. That will be paid by our insurance, which is ICAP, less our deductible, which is $5,000. The breakdown of that is $490,340.63 to the Fiedler Law Firm, $20,000 as a check to the former sergeant, which will have to pay federal and municipal fire and police payroll taxes, $680,000 to purchase an annuity, and $4,659.40 directly to the former employee. The settlement would dismiss all claims by the former sergeant against Urbandale, including FMLA, COBRA, FLSA, ERISA, Iowa Civil Rights, ADEA, and Warren Act claims. In addition, the employee would agree not to seek reemployment back with the city of Urbandale. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Questions for John on this?
I would move approval of Resolution 117-2020.
Blake.
Motion by Poggi, second by Blake. Discussion, roll call.
Poggi,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell,
Dave.
there you are. Russell,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. That passes. Item 9.4 is the Regional Small Business Relief Grant Program. And to kick this off, I'll turn it over to Curtis Brown. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's okay.
We can hear you just fine.
Sounds great. Thank you. We've had a number of conversations with businesses, and the surveys we've received, both from the partnership and Iowa Economic Development Authority, clearly indicate that there is great concern among businesses about the financial impact of coronavirus. In the survey released by UNI today, that AJ shared with you, Mayor, and the council, 88% of the respondents indicated some sort of financial assistance would be helpful, and that was just over 200 Urbandale businesses. Today, both Aaron and I have talked to businesses. One asked that I pass along to the council just the concern about the urgency of receiving some sort of assistance, especially with rents that are coming due. So clearly, federal and state programs have been helpful, but they've certainly not reached all of the businesses with needs. And this is definitely a situation that's in flux. You know, even from the news today, that there may be more federal assistance coming, and there could also be the outside possibility of more state assistance. But in the meantime, businesses are needing still more help, and that's where this regional program could come in to assist in filling some of the gaps that exist in the federal and state programs. There may be businesses that applied and were not able to receive assistance, or, for example, with the IDA program, service providers were not eligible. So optometrists, dentists, other service providers, barbershops, salons, etc., who also pay rent and taxes and employ people, weren't eligible. And so this grant program could help those business owners as well. Where it stands today is that, as we discussed at the Lunch and Learn last Tuesday, Polk County and the Greater Des Moines Partnership have really taken the lead in bringing this program together and talking with the metro communities about it. We understand that the city of Des Moines is looking at a commitment of $1.5 million. $1 million came to them from the CDBG, which they were eligible for under the federal programs. But then 500,000 was unrestricted contribution from Des Moines. So that number is important, the 500,000, because that created the suggested amount for the other cities. Understand that last night the Johnston City Council approved a phased amount up to $75,000 for their program. Polk County is putting in $200,000. The partnership would put in $50,000 to pay a third-party administrator, And we understand that there is a major private fundraising effort underway as well. And that is modeled after successful programs in other peer cities across the country to Des Moines. The suggested amount for Urbandale is, it basically takes Urbandale's population as a percentage of the population of Des Moines and then applies that percentage to Des Moines' contribution. So ultimately for Urbandale, the suggested amount of contribution to the program was $101,970. So we understand and talk partnership today that there could be an announcement tomorrow, and depending on the decision of the Urbandale Council tonight, Urbandale could be named as a program supporter in that announcement tomorrow. The applications are not yet ready. Again, in talking with David Moss at the partnership, they're really trying to look at the timing of the federal and state programs and what new help might be possible to really make sure that this regional program is as effective as possible in filling the gaps of those businesses that couldn't be served through the federal or state programs. I did talk with David about the timing of this, and clearly his thought it was as commitment builds to this program, it creates greater confidence, helps them to move toward an application opening sooner rather than later. So I think they understand the urgency that's out there. And at this point, as different city councils around the metro consider this, and as the private fundraising happens, then the partners in this, and we understand that Urbandale as a community funding partner would have an opportunity to help shape the application and qualification process as well. So hopefully that will be coming out soon. Tonight, for your consideration, there are two resolutions. The first would approve participation and authorize the city manager to take actions to participate in this program. And then also it would be important in approval of that first resolution to define Urbandale's initial contribution to this program. Second resolution is to authorize the spending of up to $100,000 from the general fund contingency account. And as was explained in the council letter to accompany this item, there is a $100,000 general fund contingency amount in each budget. So currently for the FY20 year, there would be the $100,000 there. That $100,000 was also planned for in the FY21 budget as well. So it wouldn't represent any kind of additional tax increase or anything. It's been budgeted and is included in the budget. So first one, to authorize participation. And with that, the council would need to define the funding amount. And then the second authorizes the expenditure of up to $100,000 from the contingency account. And I know Nikki Lamb is also on the line. So if there's any questions about where additional funding would come from, for example, I mentioned the suggested amount for Urbandale was $101,970. Finding that additional $1,970 is something that Nikki can address on the financial particulars. So with that, I will stop talking here, put myself on mute, and certainly happy to take any questions or comments.
Great, thank you, Curtis. Any questions from the council for Curtis?
Yeah, Curtis, on the dollars, is there any restriction on or how much has to come back to a participating community? So if we're committing 100, that at least 100 has to come back in the program, or is it whole county and our borders is where the dollars are going to go, and where the applications come from is where they go?
Right. Thanks for that question. So it would work like this. All applications would come into a central point, and then they're evaluated. Any applicant would be able to have a share of whatever private funds are raised. And then, as the application was evaluated, if they were a Polk County business, then they would be able to get a share of that Polk County funding as well. And then the third step would be, what community are they in? And so then if it was an Urbandale business, then that business would get a share of the Urbandale urban funding that was put in there. One good thing about that, we understand, is that imagine then a business that's just on the Dallas County side of Urbandale. If they also made application to this program, they would be able to access the private money, not the Polk County money, but then also the city of Urbandale money. So a long way to answer your short question. Yes, the Urbandale contribution would be for Urbandale businesses. So really the share that's available for businesses in any community does depend in a certain amount on the contribution that their community made.
And I guess then the follow on is that $1 million federal block grant. Is that Des Moines proper only, or does that get split about everybody?
Okay, thank you. Yep, that would be for Des Moines. And that, of course, comes with the other CDBG restrictions. So that will be a separate process that the applications will have to be evaluated on to make sure that they meet the LMI criteria in the CDBG.
Can people hear me? Okay. I was couldn't hear most of Aaron's discussion and any questions that came after that. I don't know if you saw me raising my hand, but I'm sure you said this, but like I said, I couldn't hear anything. So for communities that choose not to participate, they are only eligible, businesses in those communities are only eligible for the county and the private funds.
That would be our understanding, exactly.
So Urbandale money plus a combination of the other funds will go to Urbandale, and the other communities will get their money dispersed in a similar way.
Yep, that's our understanding of the program right now.
Yep.
I think we're doing really good work with this. I'm very I'm hesitant to say proud because this is such a cruddy thing, but I'm really glad we are getting out as much as we can in front of this or in the middle of it, but being really proactive as quickly as we can, because our businesses need this really badly.
Agreed.
I do have a quick comment. 100% supporter of this. I think this is fantastic. Wish we even had more resources that we could put towards it. Have we looked at, are there any other options or levers or things that we can pull from a city perspective to assist our small business? I mean, I know that the statistics have just pushed our peak for Iowa back a week or two. We're looking till the end of June, potentially, before we can lay off restrictions. I mean, the point of this is that this isn't going to let up anytime soon. Is there any other tools that we have that we could assist with small business in our community?
Thanks, Council Member, for that. In fact, we have been talking with AJ about other ways that we could assist, kind of laid out some ideas there. Clearly, we have tools like our revolving loan fund and maybe some different policy decisions that could be looked at. AJ, I'll turn to you, and maybe that's something that can come for future discussion, but certainly we have looked at some of those things. But AJ, do you have any thoughts or comments there?
We can't hear you, AJ. I can see you're talking, you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
How's that?
That's perfect.
All right, thank you. I had one microphone on and one microphone off. I apologize. As Curtis mentioned, we have looked at the internal related issues that we have, things such as some of the signage issues for businesses to make sure that they're open, placement of signages and right of way. We're looking at reduction or waiving of some of the fees associated with some of the business activities. Many of the businesses are already established. So for some of the things that we can control locally, they're already in place as far as the business has been here. They've complied. They've already had their building permits, and all those things have taken place. So, we're still looking at areas that, particularly for, well, obviously for businesses that are established, what we can do within the confines of the state restrictions as far as them being open or available for activities, such as the restaurants. They're kind of taking care of themselves now with the carryout activity or the home delivery. So, some of the items that we could look at are going to be restricted by what the state already has in place for us. So we're still examining those, and we'd like to push out some more options and ideas to you next week as we finalize those lists.
Hey, dude, that would be great. Yeah. Again, maybe it's because I'm dealing with the topic I'm dealing with at state level with nursing facilities. It's just maybe I'm in extreme emergency mode, so it's just anything that we can do. I know that this is impacting a lot of people, so I appreciate the work.
Yeah.
Go ahead, AJ.
Well, I was just going to say, as just another update, I didn't include it in Friday's update, but Steve informed me that we had over 260 inspections last week alone. So there's obviously activity going on with the building community. That certainly runs in cycles, spring and summer. Spring into going into summer is obviously a busy time. Contractors are still busy, but our focus will be on those facilities that have the brick and mortar establishments in the community, what we can look at. Some of them may be quite easy to address. Other ones will be a kind of a tougher push. They may involve some property tax related issues, things that we can control. So we're going to run down that list, and we'll have some more in-depth discussions.
And I just wanted to add too, from my perspective, a lot of the time I've been spending is with on calls talking about regional solutions as well, either through Capital Crossroads as part of the governance capital, and convening that, the Metro Advisory Council, and also I've just got an email, and we're going to have a Zoom meeting Thursday on this, but Polk County and Matt McCoy has asked me to be on a committee that's going to be looking at longer term aspects of how we provide relief to our region as well. So I think what I'm really heartened to see is, although again, this is a horrible situation, I'm heartened to see that people are coming together regionally as well to talk about how we can work together and how we can share information and best practices regionally as well. So we're doing everything right now we can, and I will certainly share anything I learn or know as far as we keep moving along. And depending, as you said, we don't know exactly how long this is going to last. The longer it lasts, obviously, we're going to have to probably be pivoting even more as far as how we can help our residents and help our businesses. But I think the key right now is to keep the dialogue going and seeing how we can best help in any number of ways. So with that, unless there's any more discussion, I'd entertain.
This is Poggi. I would move approval of resolution 113-2020.
Second,
Poggi.
Montgomery.
Motion by Poggi, second by Carberry Montgomery. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Poggi,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Poggi. I'd move approval of resolution 114-2020.
I'll second Carberry Montgomery.
Okay, motion by Poggi, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion. Roll call.
Poggi,
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Again, thanks for the full support of that. And Curtis, thanks for your participation on this. I know you've been working very hard. Speaking of regional work, you've been working very hard behind the scenes. I know you've been working with your counterparts and with the county to get this put together. So thanks for all your participation on this.
It's been a great cooperative effort, and just wanted to confirm the amount then, the 101,970 that was in the resolution. That's the agreed upon amount there?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
As the person who made the motion, that's my understanding. And $100,000 will come from the reserve or the contingency fund.
Great.
Okay. All right. With that, that takes us to the end of our regular agenda. David, do you have anything?
I was happy to have a great discussion at social distance with AJ this afternoon, and it was good to see him. He needs a haircut, but other than that, actually, a part of our discussion was it was encouraging because we began to talk about what is it going to look like when we open up the city again. And I was happy to hear that AJ's already considering things like testing for temperatures and, social distancing, mask and things like that. So I want to just continue to encourage AJ and the rest of the staff to begin as we go forward. And I'm glad to hear that we're already talking about what's it going to look like when we get back to somewhat semi-normal in doing business in the city. Thank you, AJ, for being proactive about that.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Matt.
Yes, I think this was a good meeting. I hope the council recap comes out quickly because we covered a lot of good stuff here that I'd like to make sure is shared with our community. I know that AJ shared with everybody the Bravo update via the email, so I won't go over that again, but take a look that they're trying to figure out how they're going to deal with it in the post-COVID world. How to deal with the arts and things of that nature. So I won't touch that again. And then I don't know if I'm going to say it anyway, but if you're all curious, I want to just briefly touch on, again, what I do in my civilian when it comes to the nursing facilities, because between meatpacking plants and us, we are the top 2 hotspots in the state. And I just want to let you know that from our perspective, from the association, we've been talking with the governor's office every day. We are doing everything we can to make sure that older Iowans and vulnerable Iowans are being protected and that the staff is being protected. I know that we are over 50% of the deaths are occurring from nursing facilities, and actually of the 10 confirmed cases, 7 of them are my members. So I know I know a lot of the people that are going through this right now. And I know from that they're extremely wonderful people, and they are doing everything they possibly can to make sure that the people in their facilities are safe, sound, and they are going to try to get through this on the other end. So just to let you know, it's a lot of sleepless nights. It's on weekends. I'm texting, I'm getting calls from the governor's office, but we are doing what we can to make sure that we're protecting vulnerable Iowans. And I just want to take a little time to let everybody know that if you have loved ones or people in there, we're doing all we can to make sure they're safe.
Great. Thanks, Matt. I know it's trying times right now, so I appreciate everything you're going through on your end as far as your real world job here too. So
thanks, Matt.
Yeah, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking that I'm going to have to take the trash out down at the meeting, and I just hope our AJ will pass along to all of our employees the fact that they are still doing a job and doing a great job, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ron. Bridget.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I know most of you have been in contact with Laura with UCAN, but they have really, really stepped up to the plate. I was in there yesterday. We've been bagging beans at our house for distribution. And Laura told me that they've spent probably a third of their cash reserves over the last 6 weeks. She said if they have money, they're going to spend it to help our community. And I can't say enough about what UCAN is doing and what the food pantry is doing. The Waukee Dallas County Food Pantry just had a wildly successful fundraising drive last week. I think people are really that are able are wanting to help people at that most basic level. So I just wanted to shout out those groups because they are really helping the most vulnerable in our community, and that group is growing by the day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bridget. Adam.
Just want to reiterate thanks to the city employees as well, but also on the testing side of things, the Test Iowa website, so testiowa.com, to see if you should be tested or not. And I am in the negative category as I don't hit any of the markers for going to get tested, but go out there, register, and get your information available if you can go get tested.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, well, I have, just going to take a few minutes. I was making notes actually when you were each making your individual comments because I just had some things that I was thinking about. First of all, again, just echoing what I've said before. Again, I'm spending a lot of time lately on between emergency management and with the Capital Crossroads, just talking about a lot of the issues we've talked about tonight. When you mentioned Bravo, Matt, I wanted to also touch on CVB because I sit on the CVB board and we had our board meeting last Wednesday and it was pretty sobering from their standpoint too. But I do want to assure you that CVB does have a plan in place as well to pivot on where they are on the budget since they're going to dramatically see a decrease in budget. So they're going to be it's pretty sobering, but they're being proactive on this and they're going to come out of this. And once we do come out of this a little bit and we start to have travel and leisure travel and convention travel again, they're going to need to be out on the forefront. Actually, we think we may be at a competitive advantage in the Des Moines market because they think that once people start traveling again and having meetings again, they might be smaller, more regional based. And so instead of going to the Las Vegases and some of the bigger places that folks may be traveling by car. And so we're going to try to see what we can do to make the Des Moines region as a competitive advantage to that once people do start gathering again. So we'll see how that comes out, but rest assured that Greg Edwards and his staff are doing a phenomenal job as far as responding to the situation right now and dealing with the impact on their budget and how they're going to come out of this. We'll mention, Bridget, thank you for mentioning our social agencies, both the food pantry and UCAN. I've been in contact with both Laura and Patty a lot as well. Patty, I think the food pantry, as far as they're concerned, I think they're maybe looking for some help as far as volunteers. I mean, I've gotten a couple of emails, and I know Adam has gotten an email from some faith-based organizations that are looking to help in our community too. And I've directed them to Patty as far as, they need to maybe have some volunteers to help unload food at the food pantry, and maybe Laura can as well. So if you do have questions as far as how people can participate, I think I would just direct them to both Laura and Patty to say, because I think they could probably help with some volunteers on both their ends, as well as the financial resources we can provide them at this time. And I know everybody, I think, participated in the Easter basket thing that UCAN did. And I think that I'm signed up, and I think maybe most of you have seen this. If you haven't, go out to the UCAN Facebook page, but they're going to be doing a pancake drop off this Saturday. So they're looking for volunteers to drop off pancakes. So there's another way to participate and help. And it's a very heartening thing. You can do this contactless and, just do it, drop off something to a senior's front door. And I can just say it's very heartening to see the face that, people know that they're thinking about them and helping them. And we need to be doing that as much as we can at this time. So I'd encourage you to do that and encourage others to do that as well. Speaking about testing, AJ and I were on a call with Polk County this afternoon related to that, and just kind of a heads up type of thing. As far as I think we're going to start seeing a dramatic ramp up of testing, and so we're going to. I think it's good to go out to Test Iowa. Adam raised that. I already did that today as well. But related to that, we need to coordinate how we're going to do the testing. And so, if we hear of some testing either done by the state or the federal government in Urbandale, we're going to coordinate with Polk County on that as well. And Polk County is, again, doing a great job. Polk County Health and Emergency Management is coordinating this phenomenally, I think. So we will be coordinating with them. And they just wanted us to have some discussion on that. So I probably have a lot more than I'm not thinking of, but I think that's probably the things in the last week that I've been forefront on and talking about. So again, I appreciate everybody's efforts. We've all stepped up. I can tell everybody from our staff and everybody's really stepped up. So I really appreciate everything everybody's doing right now. And we just got to keep sticking together. We'll get through it. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Moved. Pogge.
Second, Blake.
Let's do a roll call. Nicole.
Pogge,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Hubbard Montgomery,
Yes.
Obrecht,
Yes.
Russell.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Have a pleasant and safe night, and we'll chat again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody.